It's the weekly show with David J. Maloney. This week, David welcomes Lisa Thomas McMillan and Freddie McMillan from Drexel and Honeybees restaurant with music by Gianni. And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome to everyone at home, and I would normally say our studio audience to the weekly show. We do not have a studio audience. We do not have a studio like so many other talk shows because of the coronavirus. We are shooting this show from home, my home. So this is the weekly show home edition. I'm your host, David J. Maloney, and I have one benefit that a lot of other talk show hosts do not have. I have a live-in musician, my son, and now my musical director, Gianni. So the city of Pamplona, Spain, has suspended the annual running of the bulls this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. Because, you know, when it comes to running the bulls, well, safety comes first. Americans are adjusting to a new way of life because of the coronavirus. For example, I'm now actually storing gloves in my glove compartment. And amusement parks that closed due to coronavirus are in varying stages of reopening now. But the bad news is a lot of people are still very nervous about going to them. The good news is if you want a roller coaster ride, you can just play the stock market. And Trump and Joe Biden are at odds over who has the better coronavirus strategy. Both men are credible on the issue, having survived the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. Lawyers are adjusting to a new way of life amid the coronavirus. For example, I'm now chasing ambulances by drone. And James Bond actor Timothy Dalton just had a birthday. I don't want to say he's getting old, but these days he gets his Metamucil shaken, but not stirred. Speaking of birthdays, happy birthday to New England's Patriots coach Bill Belichick, who just turned 68. If you want to send a gift, he could really use Tom Brady. And astronaut Alfred Worden, who orbited the moon in 1971, has sadly passed away at the age of 88. Former colleagues remember him as, down to earth. And according to TMZ, actress Amanda Bynes is pregnant. I wonder if it's too early to call Child Protective Services. And finally, actor Real Andrews, who plays Marcus Taggart on General Hospital, is leaving the show. They say his character will be killed off, leaving the door open for his return. Please stay tuned. We have a great show lined up. We have two guests, Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan, from a restaurant in Brewton, Alabama called Drexel and Honeybees. There are times when I hear about someone or something and I go, I just must absolutely have them on the show. And this is what happened with Freddie and Lisa. Drexel and Honeybees is a unique restaurant in Brewton, Alabama, where they exist basically to help people who don't have enough money to eat. It is a pay-as-you-wish restaurant, which means you go there, eat the meal that, they have different meals. They have a menu, and you can order, what you want and consume your meal, and then on your way out, decide what, if anything, you can or want to pay. And so I feel very, very proud, actually, to have them on the show. We'll be right back after these messages, and you'll be able to learn a lot about Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan from Drexel and Honeybees. We'll be right back. And we are back. We are here with Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan of Drexel and Honeybees. It's so glad to have you on. I'm sorry that the connection isn't great, and I hate the fact that we're not able to do this in person because of the whole COVID thing. I've read both your stories, and I'm just so happy that you guys are on the show. So tell me a little bit. Where did the name Drexel and Honeybees come from?
Well, I lived in California. It's been about 30 years ago. And I saw a building, and I thought, well, that would be a great little ice cream shop. Okay. And I started handing around names in my head, and Drexel and Honeybee popped up in there, and I said that's what I would name it. And that didn't come to fruition, but I kept the name, and I said if I ever get anywhere, a restaurant or anything, it would be called Drexel and Honeybees.
That's funny because what'll happen when I do commercials sometimes is an idea will pop in my head, and it'll sit there for months, sometimes years, and then eventually it does happen. So I'm so glad that, you know, when you have a situation like that and you have that kind of dream, you make it actually happen. Now, how did you and Freddie meet, and how long have you guys been together?
Actually, we met in middle school, high school, and one day he asked if I would be his girlfriend, and I told him no, and I took off running. But he only been married for 9 years, so we met again about 9 years ago, and 3 months later we decided to get married. So we actually grew up together.
I hear the phone ringing in the background. If that's my wife, I just left. Okay.
Okay.
Now, Lisa, in your 50s, you actually did 2 solo walks to raise awareness for hunger. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, the first one day we were sitting around, I was talking to my sister, and we didn't have any funds or anything, and I was asking her, I said, I wonder what you got, what would we have to do to get people's attention and to let them know, this was in 2004, that people are hungry in Alabama and in this country. I said, what would we have to do? And the thought came in my head. I told her, I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to type up a letter, and I'm going to walk to Montgomery and take it to the governor to show people how serious the issue is, and maybe that would make them want to do more. And that's what we decided to do. So we took off walking. It took 6 days to get there, and we delivered a letter to, it was Bob Riley at the time. He was the governor of Alabama. And that year when I walked to Montgomery, I said then that the next year I would walk to Washington to take a letter to the president. And the next year we walked to Washington. It took 55 days.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But we weren't able to see the president, but our congressman made sure he got the letter and everything. But, you know, even though we didn't get a lot of attention for that, it's still a lot of people stopped. We talked to a lot of people, and we felt like we had really done a good job in trying to get the word out about hunger, because we knew that hunger was a very important issue. So that was our main focus.
And I know that feeding the community has been something that you started, you know, well before Drexel and Honeybees. I mean, you've been pretty much doing it all along, right? Yes, we have. We started a nonprofit food bank in 2002. I had the first Drexel and Honeybees was in 2000. But before that, we ran into a lot of elderly people who were suffering food shortages because they had to make a choice, buy medicine or buy food. Well, most of them were trying to get their medicine. Yeah. So there was food shortage. So we started feeding elderly people in the 90s. And then we decided to become a nonprofit so we could get food from the food banks and stuff and do more. And that's what we did. But we've been doing this for a long time. Now, you've actually at some point were even feeding people out of your own home. I mean, how did that come to be? And what kind of made you, for lack of a better way of putting it, have to actually resort to that? Well, that was the elderly people. We decided that, well, I was in a grocery store one day, and it was an elderly woman in front of me, and her bill was like $12, and she fell short. Mm-hmm. And I helped her. And when I got through paying for my stuff, I ran out and I talked to her. And I just started talking to her about food and where she was short of food. And she explained to me that a lot of the elderly people, they had food shortages. So what we started doing was every morning we would get up and do about 30 breakfasts. And we would go to Burger King and get the coffee, and we would deliver them all into the community. And that's how we started doing the feeding from my home. Now, where did y'all learn how to cook? I mean, did you guys have any restaurant experience? Did you just learn how to cook growing up in your own homes, grandparents? How did all that come to be?
Well, I worked in the restaurant industry all my life as a waitress, as a cook, and some of the places like Marriott and places like that. I learned how to do a lot of cooking, so that's why I picked up my cooking. It's just from working in the restaurant industry.
And how about you, Freddie?
Well, I got most of my cooking experience from my grandmother. She started teaching me how to cook when I was 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, that's funny because I was going to ask you a question about memories of your childhood that would associate you with food. Because for me, it's the smell of garlic. My grandmother was Italian, and so she put garlic in like everything. So everything that so whenever I smell garlic, it kind of brings me back to that time. Do you remember anything specific that brings you kind of back to that time?
Well, when I look at my what I'm doing now, it never connected. But my father, he used to go around and get the expired food from the grocery stores. Now, we all know just because something is expired doesn't mean it's not any good. Mm-hmm. But put it on the truck, and he would take it around, and he would share with all the people in the community. And it never dawned on me that that's, probably where all of this come from, seeing him do that. But now, all of these years later, he's gone now. But now I know that's where it comes from seeing him do that. And I have people come up to me now and tell me, I had never tasted cheese until your father gave me some. And it just, that's where I feel like, my childhood, that's where I feel like the connection is now to what I'm doing now is when my father used to do that.
Well, God bless you. Well, one of the things I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to commercial break, and then we're going to come back with you guys. We're going to come back with Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan of Drexel and Honeybees in Bruton, Alabama, right? And,
right.
And we're going to finish up talking about this fantastic place that you've got there. We'll be right back. And we are back with Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan of Drexel and Honeybees in Bruton, Alabama. So what are some of your favorite things to cook in the restaurant?
Well, some of my favorite things are macaroni and cheese, and we make it really, really cheesy. We do a great chicken salad. I like to do the oven fried chicken. It looks like fried chicken that you deep fried, but it's oven fried chicken. It's very good. Dressing, I like to do chicken and dressing. Freddie, with the meatloaf, he does a great meatloaf. So those are some of the things that people love the most too. Also,
now a lot of times what you have to make is based on what ingredients you have available, right?
Well, that's a lot of our cooking. Yes.
So you have to make it as on the fly, almost, right?
We do. We don't have a menu. What we do is we go in every day and we make what we have, and that's the menu for the day. So we don't make a menu out ahead of time.
Now, I mentioned earlier in the show, how Drexel and Honeybees works before we had you on here today. But rather than it be put in my words, why don't you tell our viewers, exactly how it works and how it helps the people who are hungry?
Well, when we started thinking about Drexel and Honeybee, this is what we wanted. We wanted to, and we explored a couple of ideas. But we wanted people to, anyone, even if you have money, we wanted it to be a restaurant where even if you had money to do anywhere or go anywhere you wanted to eat, it would be a place where you would come and be comfortable and enjoy the food. And even if you didn't have a penny and couldn't go anywhere to eat, it would be a place where you could come, be comfortable, and enjoy the food. And we wanted to set it up on an even keel. That means that if you wanted to leave $100 in the box, we wouldn't know it. We wouldn't know if you left it or the person behind you. If you didn't leave anything, you could walk up to the box and stand in front of it for a second, walk out that door, and no one Absolutely no one would know that you didn't eat anything. So we wanted it to be where people could come and enjoy themselves, and we wanted it to be a place where people fellowship and not worry about, I don't have any money.
No loss of pride.
None. Because really and truthfully, we fixed it where we don't give out change. We don't have any place in there where we give out money. When people ask us for change, we tell them we don't have any. Well, they might say, well, I have $100. Well, you come back when you have some change, or I hope you enjoyed the meal.
Now, does one of you do more of the cooking inside the restaurant, or is it pretty equivalent, or how does that work?
It's pretty equal. We both enjoy it, and we both enjoy when people tell us that they enjoy the food, because that's very important to us for people to enjoy the food. And and we both feed off of each other. We'll test each other's food, and we'll feed off of each other about how good it is. So we get a lot of fun out of it.
My wife never uses a recipe. She always just, whatever she does it by feel. And things come out great. And everybody always goes, well, how do you consistently, no matter what you do, make this stuff come out great? She always says the same thing. She says, because I prepare it with love.
Right. She's right. She's absolutely right. Because a lot of times we don't use recipes, but we just kind of feel it out. I do a bread pudding. Mm-hmm. And people ask me, what is the recipe to the bread pudding? I go, I don't have a recipe. They say, well, how much nutmeg? I said, I just put some nutmeg in there.
What feels right? Whatever feels right, right?
Right.
Where did the slogan "Feed the Need" come from?
Well, because we wanted a slogan that fit what we do. We not only feed people, through food, we feed other needs. If we find that someone in the community is going through something, we pride ourselves on helping them. Mm-hmm. We feed other situations. It's not only feeding people. We try to branch off into other things, because people are suffering through a lot of different things now, and we feel that feeding people is important, but also there are other needs that people have, and we try to help solve them.
I read in an interview at one point that you had said that hunger is a lonely feeling. What did you mean by that?
At one time I was hungry, and when I was hungry, it was the loneliest feeling of my life. It was just lonely to not have anything to eat, and it was just a lonely time for me. And I learned then that hunger is just a lonely feeling, to be hungry, and if you ever go through that, you don't want anybody else to have to go through it.
And does that give you a feeling, an ability to associate with some of the people who come in to Drexel and Honeybees?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It gives you that level of that empathy.
Right.
Now, it's obvious that you see hunger and nutrition as a big need in our communities. When you hear the stories of your customers, especially the more needy ones, do you find any commonalities, anything in common or consistent with all of them, any consistent problems?
I think what's going on is a lot of people, like I said, the high cost of medicine and having to make that choice, because most of them are elderly people. So when they have to make that choice between food and medicine. Medicine will win, mm-hmm. and they go like in the food department.
Because a lot of people have to make a choice between what they put on their table and what they spend to keep the household going. So the economy and everything else is out of their price bracket. So they have to. A lot of times they suffer when it comes to their nutrition, the food, and all. That's the best feeling in the world, to see a happy family or a happy person leaving the restaurant knowing that they're not going hungry that day.
Now,
So that's what I try to do every day.
you guys are open primarily lunches, right? But are you guys doing a Friday night thing too now? I thought I heard.
No, we're not doing. We were at one time, but we're not doing the Friday night thing anymore.
Got it. And I'm going to guess that has something to do with the whole COVID thing. Now, if someone told you that they wanted to try to do this same thing in their hometown, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them it's very possible to do it. The only thing I would tell them is money definitely, absolutely cannot be the first thing on your mind. It's the making. It has to be the last. So the first thing on your mind, if you wanted to do something like this, is you really want to feed people and contribute to the community, because money definitely, if there's something that's on your mind that you want to make, I would say no, you need to do something else.
In fact, you guys actually do have to rely somewhat on contributions from local farmers and other people in the community to provide you with some of the food at times, correct?
Right. We have been very fortunate. We have been getting a lot of fresh vegetables and tomatoes, squash, and stuff like that. We have been very fortunate. And people bring it to us, and they're happy to bring it, and they are contributing to what we are doing. So when we say we have a restaurant and we feed the hungry, when we say we mean everybody involved, not just us, because there's a lot more people involved than we are.
The people who contribute in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Now, Lisa, you've got a memoir as well available at the restaurant. How can people go about getting a copy if they're not, say, in Bruton and not able to come by?
It's on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, and it's called Living Fulfilled, The Infectious Joy of Serving Others. And they can pick it up at Amazon.
Okay. And what we'll do is we'll put that on the screen for people so that they can see that when the show comes on. I really appreciate you guys making yourself available. I know that you guys probably put in a full day already, and that you guys had to go somewhere else to be able to get this Skype connection to be able to do the interview, and I really, really do appreciate it so much. And really, we appreciate and love what you guys are doing for your community, and would love to see more people doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Freddie and Lisa Thomas McMillan with Drexel and Honeybees in Bruton, Alabama. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Wow, it's so great to be back on the air. Thank you so much to Freddie and Lisa with Drexel and Honeybees. Johnny, take us home.